Let's go.
Unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
What's going on, rock stars? It is another episode of the Raw and Unscripted show with yours truly, Christopher Rausch, your no excuses coach. And you are here to learn how to remove your excuses and remove your tolerations and live a kick-ass, unstoppable life. Thank you guys all for joining us. We are live here every single Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're listening to us on the podcast, feel free to join us. All my social media points to this podcast. You can go to rawandunscripted.com and you can see past episodes, but we are live on videocast every single Tuesday. And the reason why I do that is that if you want to participate in the conversation, you may do so. You may come here and ask questions of myself and my guest, either live while the broadcast is going, or you can even check it out on replay. And myself or my guest will make sure we get you the answers that you need, because this is a conversation with you. This is a podcast with you. I believe in having interactive conversations, because here's the deal. Every single week, you take 3 strategies from this conversation and you apply them in your life, and you show up. It's like class. You show up next week and you apply those 3 strategies. And when you start to put those things together, like building blocks, like little interlocking building blocks, in 3 months, 6 months, a year, you will see your life. You will see your confidence. You will see your happiness, your freedom, your inner peace. You will see them exponentially grow. And I can say that because I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people reach out over the 5 years I've been doing this podcast, and they've said, Chris, you have changed my life. And some of them have become coaching clients. Some of them have become dear friends, and they're all over the world. We're in 28 countries approximately, give or take. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, it depends. But I appreciate you guys all tuning in from wherever it is that you are at. And my first question to you guys, my first question is, let me know what I can do to improve the show. And I do this periodically, so you guys can send me an email, info@noexcusescoach.com, noexcusescoach.com. Send me an email, info@noexcusescoach.com, and say, Chris, I would like to see this. I would like to see you slow down a little bit. I would like to see you do more solo shows. Those are some of the examples that I've had in the past when I've asked this question. I appreciate all the, it's awesome, and I dig it, and there's nothing I would change, but I'm always looking at what I can do to improve. And I've been doing this for 5 years, and sometimes I get a little bit complacent. I love and enjoy doing this, but I want to make sure I'm providing value to you guys and bringing the best guests. And so I am doing solo shows once a month. Starting in 2025, per my coach's instructions, I will be doing more solo shows than guests, because people seem to appreciate the fact that when I'm just solo, I'm giving you guys a lot more content, but we're still going to be bringing you amazing guests as we always have done in the past. So I encourage you, go back and check out the previous shows and take those 3 strategies and build those building blocks. And I promise you, without spending a dime, you can change your life. And that is a guarantee. So I would love to be that person to help you with that. And speaking of people helping people, I'm going to show you the cover of my dear friend. She's an amazing person. I wrote one of the forwards for her book. It is called Choose Joy, A Survivor's Guide for Hope, and it's by Nancy Nance. So you feel free to go check out Nancy Nance on any social media. You will find her. She is all about joy. And before I go any further, I want to read something. Normally, I don't do this, but for special people and special occasions, I want you guys to seek out other experts in my life who do phenomenal work. And I don't say that lightly, and I don't do this very often. If you guys have been following the show, I don't do this very often. But I'm going to read you a little bit of what the book is about, and then I'm going to read you what I wrote about the book, and then we're going to jump in with our amazing guest. We're going to be talking about overcoming self-sabotage. So again, feel free in the comments, if you're watching us live, to participate in that. But the first part of the book says, I woke up one August morning in 2011 to a different day. This was the day I would choose to live my life without my forever friend, Ann Joy. August 26, 2011 was the day my daughter, Emily Joy, died, and her brother and my son, Jarrett, survived. Changed my life forever. The love that held our family together shattered when a boat swerved to miss one sea-doo and crashed into another, which carried my son and his sister. This book is a relatable journey of traveling through hell to a place of peace, compassion, and forgiveness that will reveal that happiness is an option. Living your best life is still possible. And it goes on to talk about choosing joy. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal read. And here's what I wrote to support Nancy's book, because I believe all of this deserves to be shared. I wrote, Choosing Joy, A Survivor's Guide for Hope is more than a book. It's a roadmap to personal transformation. Nancy's courage and fierce determination shine through every page as she lays out the tools you need to shift from surviving to thriving. If life's hardships have left you feeling stuck or overwhelmed, this book will remind you of your inner strength. Nancy just doesn't share her story. She hands you a blueprint for breaking free from the grip of trauma and embracing a future full of purpose and joy. With her heartfelt wisdom and actionable strategies, you'll feel empowered to release the past, take charge of your healing, and rediscover your true potential. This isn't just a read it, it's your invitation to a whole new way of living. And that's what I wrote to support this book. So I highly encourage you to check it out. What I'm going to do also is I will place in the comments a link to make sure that you purchase this book. So that is my story about that. Please do what you can to support the people in my life. She's a phenomenal person, and she brings so much hope and opportunity to the people of this world. It's truly incredible what she does. And that's what we do here is we look for opportunities in our life to create opportunities. You know, within our opportunities, we create opportunities, and it's all about the action that you take. And that's a firm recommendation from me. So I will make sure that link is both in the show promo and in the link in the chat here. But again, you can go on Amazon and you can find it. It's Nancy Nance. You can find the author. And so we encourage you to do that. So with that, I've had the opportunity to speak with my guest in a short conversation many, many months ago, because we are now having the guest on that I think I talked to at the beginning of this year. We're booked through the end of this year into 2025 with guests. So this person is a phenomenal expert in talking about self-sabotage. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurism, starting your own business, being in business, having the mindset of resiliency and overcoming that negative self-talk. So without any further ado, please help me in welcoming to the show, Pat Honiotes. Pat, welcome to the Raw Unscripted show, my dear. How are you?
I am great. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm sitting here talking to you. I have the opportunity to promote an amazing book that it will change people's lives. And I have 4 cats in my studio right now. So I'm feeling the love.
Well, and I'm ready to go order that book.
Yes, it is phenomenal. I didn't get a chance to read all of it, but I read probably about 40% of it as I wrote the foreword for it. And I've known Nancy for about 1.5 years now. She's one of my coaching clients, and her story doesn't even do it. What I just wrote doesn't even do it justice. It's incredible what she has survived, and her attitude is not fake. It's not put on. And she just brings the absolute value. She's also a coach. She's a speaker. She's a homeopathic therapist. She does teas. She does all these different things. She brings amazing value to the world. So yes, I highly encourage that. We've got Crystal Rye in the house. What's up, Crystal? Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you. If you're just tuning in right now, feel free to go back and check out the recommendation I just gave for an amazing book. And with that, my first question to you tonight, Pat, is, given what I kind of said in the preface of the show, what do you want listeners and viewers to walk away from this conversation knowing and believing the most about themselves and their opportunities?
That they have a lot more potential, they have many more gifts, and they have much more control than they think they do in their life and in their business. That it's all about them.
So how did you come to having that as a main passion in your life? What was your journey to bring you to wanting to be the expert to share that with so many people?
I started out very young. I started teaching when I was 12. And I started teaching when I was 12 because that was in the early 1950s. And I had the words we used then was severely mentally retarded sister. There was a lady that would teach these children at the YMCA, but she could not find one single person to help her. I said, okay, no. And so at 12, I started being a teacher's aide and teaching those kids. Okay. And it followed through. You know, I went through with that population, but even those kids could learn that it was up to them. In fact, they're the ones that taught me that, Chris.
In what way? What was the experience? And I love to ask this question of people, like, what was one of the lowest experiences in your life, and what was it that you learned the most from it? Because we often want to avoid the negative experiences in our life, but when I look back on my life, it wasn't when things were easy that I learned the most. It was when things were downright challenging that I was able to grow and learn. And with fondness, I can look back on my experiences and say, thank you, God, for those. I don't want to repeat them, but what was that for you? What was one of those lowest experiences, and what did you learn the most from it?
Wow, I love this because I encourage this, and I don't really always understand how difficult it is to do. So thank you. Thank you for another experience. I basically raised my little sister. It was a difficult situation. And then when she was 7 and I was about 15, they had to institutionalize her because she just couldn't be kept at home anymore.
Wow.
It felt like somebody just tore my heart out and threw it in the wastepaper basket. I had no choice. I had nothing to say about it. And I was pissed. I was probably one of the angriest teenagers I knew. What I learned, I could be as angry as I wanted. I could be as ornery as I wanted. And it didn't make it any easier. It didn't make any difference. But what I did learn was I could choose how I wanted to be. And then I could control the situation.
So why do people run to blame rather than accepting responsibility? I was just talking about it today on a TikTok where I was talking about, I call it the AAA: awareness, acceptance, and action. And some people have a difficulty with the acceptance part, because I'm like, you don't have to accept you don't have to accept that it was your fault. You just have to accept the 5 words. It is what it is.
Yes.
So why do you think people go to blame rather than accepting that responsibility and saying, listen, this is where I'm at, and now I get to choose whether I still become a victim or I become a victor?
That's something they've been taught. It's been my experience, Chris. Think about it. Most people don't teach their children that. They teach that this is to blame or that is to blame. And that's put in our heads from the time we were probably in utero.
Yep.
Right? So they don't know any better. However, they can be taught better, and they can choose to be taught better. But it's an automatic reaction at first. You go 2, 4, 6.
I was just talking about that earlier with my Common Core math.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. It's that automatic. Okay. So there's where the interrupt has to come in. And so you were just talking about awareness. That's one of my 5 steps. The first thing is you have to be aware that this is going on, because it's that 2, 4, 6, 8 automatically. Okay. You don't even take the time. And so the first step is awareness.
I love that. And I'm guessing from the way you talked about raising your sister that there must have been some challenges with your parents. What part of in that awareness and that acceptance, what part of finding empathy and forgiveness for your parents, perhaps for some of the things they put you through? What's that been, that role in your life?
That's just been, for me, they didn't know any better.
Can you go deeper on that? Because I understand that.
We either parent the way we were parented or the exact opposite. Okay. And they believed what my grandparents believed. And in the early 50s, like that, it was very shameful to have that kind of a child. They didn't know any better, Chris. In some respects, they weren't responsible because they didn't know. So I can give them that grace from that perspective. Now, I'll be flat out honest with you, where I still have a little bit of trouble is, it's not like they wanted to be any different or chose to find out anymore.
Right.
So that I'm still working on that one. Okay. But the bottom line is I didn't know any better. And I think that's true for a lot of people with the situation they're in. The secret is being aware of it and then choosing to do something about it.
I love that. I love that. And I think about what my mother said, which was, she goes, I did the best I could with what I had. And for most of my life, I called bullshit on it. I'm like, no, that's fucked up. You're super intelligent. I mean, she was incredibly book smart, but people smart. She was fucking stupid as the day is long. And I used to go, Mom, there's no way you would see what other parents did. We watched television. Parents didn't beat their kids for not knowing the answer. Parents didn't do all these things. Parents didn't put the animals first in front of the kids. You usually took care of your kid first, and then you took care of everyone else. But it wasn't until, to your point, that when I was writing my book, which will be out next year, I was sitting there thinking, okay, how can I switch my perspective on still having that anger and that animosity towards her? And I thought, just like you said, what would I have been like if I was a woman born in 1942 and I went through her experiences with her, her parents were in their early 20s when they had her, and I went through all those experiences that she went through. Would I be like her?
Yes.
And when I came to that realization for myself, I sat there and I wanted to say no. I wanted to say, no, it's bullshit. I would have done this. I would have done that. I would have looked at other people. But I sat there and I thought, yes, I would have been like her.
Yeah.
And then in that moment, I sat there and I saw, rather than anger and animosity and frustration and disappointment, I saw empathy. And I thought, oh my God, that poor girl, that poor little girl who never got to have friends, that she was, put, to focus on her studies so much that she graduated high school at 15. She went to college at 16. But then about 20, she went balls ass crazy in the 60s with drugs and sex and all these different things. And then she got on drugs and alcohol. And then she became a mom at 19. And then she became a mom at 26 with me. But when I had that opportunity, it shifted all of the feelings of being a victim. Yes. Like, oh man, I was homeless, and oh man, I was beaten. And I had that ability to find empathy. What recommendations would you have for people that are watching this and that are struggling with that blame and that resentment and that disappointment and that anger, and they're using it as a badge of honor to say, okay, this is why I'm like this, because of my parents? What would you say for them to unravel that?
You know what? I'm going to go right back to the awareness thing. Okay. And that is spend some time, which is what you just shared. You had to spend some time doing the best you could to step out of it, to step out of your pain and hurt and look at it with different eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you can do that, and at least for me, it didn't happen overnight. I'm still doing it some days, it's like,
oh yeah, we're human.
Is take the time and the grace for yourself to go, okay, it still pisses me off. I still don't like it, but I can have this much empathy right now. It's a process, and it's something that you have to work at. It's not a magic wand thing. It really isn't.
It's true. It's true. We got Jacqueline Rose in the house, my Irish sister from another mister. She says, one thing I don't blame the blame game. I take full responsibility for myself. And you do, Jacqueline. Jacqueline's an awesome soul in my life. She says, but the thing is, I don't take the blame for other people, only myself. True. Awesome. You gotta have that. You gotta have that responsibility and that acceptance for yourself. Yes. One of the things, like I said, my mom would say, she goes, I did the best I could with what I had. I struggle with when people say they're doing the best they can. And I'll tell you why. Because one day I came home from work and I had a very difficult day at work, and I was putting my keys in my wallet on my dresser. And I said to myself, I talked to myself out loud, and I said, oh, I did the best I could today. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, why did I just say I just did the best I could when I know that was not my best? And then I peeled back the onion and I thought, okay, where does that come from? That comes from childhood. Chris, did you do the best you could on this math? Yes, I did. Okay, we'll do better next time. But nobody ever qualifies, okay, what is our best and what is better? And so I've been challenged in my life with people saying, I'm doing the best I can. And so I ask them, what's one aspect that you can do a little bit better at? What are your thoughts on that? When people use that excuse, which I'm the no excuses coach, and they say, you know what, Pat, I'm doing the best I can. What do you say to people when they say that?
Is that good enough for you?
Is that good enough for you?
Clients come back to me and say, yeah, it's good enough. I go, great, I'm not your coach. Okay, because if you're satisfied with where you're at, I'm not your coach. So first, I'm going to go back to awareness. I'm probably going to drive you nuts with that word tonight.
Oh, that's good.
Is awareness that, okay, the first stage is everything going the way I want to? Is it? Well, no. I will say, though, I think people do the best they can in any given moment. I don't think that's an excuse. It's later that it turns into an excuse. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Can you perhaps give us an example where you might have thought you were doing the best, but then realized you weren't doing your best, that you were giving yourself an out?
Yes. When I first started teaching high school in the inner city, it was the first year that they brought those kids into the school system, right? So I had 2 pieces of chalk, a blackboard, and an eraser, and no books had come in yet. Okay. Wow. And so it was a matter, first year teacher, by the way, that was fun. I wouldn't give that up for anything, and so, I would go home and be moaning and groaning, and I did the best I could with what I had. And then finally, I just went, wait a minute, you're not stupid. So I went to the library. I got a regular science book. I went to the supply department. Now, this is in the olden days, Chris, and got a stack of mimeograph paper. Remember the mimeograph paper?
No.
No.
Not even before my time, maybe. Mimeograph.
Mimeograph paper, and then we put it on this. You wrote on it or typed on it. You put it on this drum, and you ran off your copies. Kids would smell the ink on there. It was your first Xerox, only it was so.
Okay, I was thinking it was NCR paper, but that's even before that, I think.
Oh, you have to understand, I'm 77, so that was at least 52 years ago. Okay?
Wow. Would have never guessed.
And the thing was, the best I could do was write the books for them until they came in. But I had to go through the bitching and moaning and the pity party before I could do that. And I think rock bottom is different for everybody.
Right.
Rock bottom for me, I'll be honest with you right there, is my kids weren't learning. That doesn't fly with me. Okay. And I knew then that, come on, I've been a student teacher. I knew that I could teach kids.
Right. When you think about the what I titled the show and talking about self-sabotaging, what would you say to people who have the issue of negative self-talk? Like, oftentimes they won't talk to their friends or their kids the way they talk to themselves. What recommendations do you have for people to have that awareness that they're saying that negative stuff about themselves, but more importantly, how to overcome that, how to change that script that they're basically prescriptively creating their future with?
So the way I start with clients is tell me, Chris, is there any child in your life that you kind of like? Yeah.
My inner child.
Yeah, there's that one. And the physical one, do you have a niece or a nephew or a son or your daughter that you kind of like a little bit or a whole lot?
Oh, yeah.
Now, can you imagine saying, how old is your child?
He is 7, going to be 8 next month.
All right. Can you imagine saying to your son, you are so stupid. How could you do it that way?
No, that's what my mom said.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then I would say, so I want you to practice this week on the next session, catching yourself as much as you can and saying, would I say that to my son? And if you wouldn't say it to your son, please don't say it to yourself.
Amen. I couldn't agree more with that. The further thing that I would tell people on that is to eliminate 3 words from their language: always, never, and try. Because so many times we say, I always screw up, or I'll never find a man, or I'll try to get up in the morning and go to work out. There is no try. There either you fucking do it or you don't. There is not always, and there's never. There's always that opportunity. There is always that opportunity for us to change what it is that we're saying to ourselves. But what has the role of the people in your life been for you to become the person that you've become? Because I subscribe to the philosophy of Stephen Covey. You're like the 5 people you're around the most. And I found that when I was a teenager, when I was a youngster going through a lot of stuff, being homeless, that the 5 people I were around the most were the ones that were doing drugs, the ones that were beating people up, the ones that were doing not so great things. And then I started getting around the people that were going to college and the people that were getting jobs. And I started becoming like that. What has been that path for you in your life of perhaps being around the wrong people and then being around the right people?
I don't think I was ever really around a lot of wrong people. It was more, I was taught that I was stupid. From the time I was 3 years old, my stepfather called me a goddamn dummy. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, in that situation, I better be. So it was more like that, getting myself out of situations to where I was called names, to where I was. And I was just ornery enough, okay? And I would do it in different ways. This is going to sound really strange, I know, but I began to have fun with it, okay? I would do things differently enough that worked, that showed I wasn't stupid, but they couldn't figure it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, can you give us some examples of that? I think that'd be great for people.
Yes. So one of the things my stepfather used to say to me is, do you always have to find the easiest way to do everything? And I'm like, yeah. Okay. So any opportunity I got, and I didn't dare talk back. So of course I didn't. But any opportunity I had to show somebody like my sister an easy way to do something, I took it, and inside I smiled and went about my way. So the thing is, if we don't have to broadcast it all the time. Do you know what I mean? It's like, hey, I got you. It's like, yes, easy way to do it. Another thing I would do is, I was a kid and a terrible teenager. I set him up. Okay. And I was like, who's stupid now? You know, that kind of thing. I'm not saying that was necessarily a healthy one. All right. It was a matter of, if they told me to write, I was in an art class. Okay. And the assignment was to do a painting that was a black and white painting, and you could have some color in it. I don't like doing black and white, but I followed the rules, Chris, and I still got the painting here somewhere. And right down the middle was a thin line of white, and next to it a thin line of black, and then all around it were these big, beautiful, blooming flowers that I painted. So it was stuff like that. It was, again, a beautiful painting came out of it, but the way I looked at it, I don't know was how healthy. It got me through, though.
Yeah, sometimes you have to play a game with yourself in order to get through that. Yes. I subscribe to the philosophy, do I want to be happy or do I want to be right? And that's, again, we were talking about, you know, am I going to parent like my parents, or am I going to parent completely different? And for me, my mother always had to be right. It was all about being right. You're wrong, goddammit. You're wrong, goddammit. You're stupid. You're stupid. Da, 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 da. And so one day I realized with her, I'm like, okay, I don't always have to be right, because what happens when I'm trying to be right, I'm proving you wrong. And when I'm trying to prove you wrong, what are you going to do? You're going to get defensive and you're going to try to prove me wrong. And then we're going to play the one-upsmanship game, and I say one-upsmanship game, and nobody wins. And then we both go away disgruntled. So I realized there are certain situations in my life where I could stop and pause and go, you know what? I'd rather be happy than right in a situation, because I'm going to have a little empathy and understanding and respect for this person, that they're in that spot, and I'm not going to change what it is that they're focusing on. What next do you said awareness was one of your big keys. What are some other big keys in your life that have helped you become the success that you are?
See, it's a pattern. It's 5 steps. First step is awareness. Oh, you know, I think something's not right here. And this is whether it's a personal thing or your business. All right. And some people go tootling along through their business, just doing the same thing all the time, 2, 4, 6, 8. Remember that, right? And they're not aware that it's coming down around them. So awareness. And then there's the awareness of the truth. Oh my God, that's not working. The next one is really experiencing the truth. Experiencing the anger or the hurt or the lost money or the contract that didn't go through. Here's the other thing, Chris. People don't want to feel. They don't want to feel. Who wants to feel sad or bad? But you learn from that. And any feeling that you're letting out, you're not in here. You're not keeping it bottled up. All right. So it's awareness. Something's not quite right. Yeah, right. Look at that. And experience it, and really allowing yourself to experience. And then it's accepting the truth. You talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about that out there. Really accepting the truth without making anybody right, wrong, good, or bad. It is then, and only then, can you begin to change your point of view. So I'm looking at you right now, or her right now, and she's a terrible parent. But if I come around to the side and look at it like you did with your mother, I'm changing my point of view.
Yeah.
But if you apply those 5 steps to every single decision, you will get there. The thing that's not included in this 5 steps is, I firmly believe that we need to really understand how we work inside, how we're wired. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we can do that. We can get help to do it, which is what I do, but we can also begin to do it ourselves, right? And the way you do that is awareness. What are some of the things I do every day that just doesn't seem to be working? You know, I intend to brush my teeth every morning, but by noontime, I realize I haven't done it. Oh, maybe if I put the toothbrush next to my coffee cup, it's things like that, but it's awareness. I kind of went on a tangent there, but I think that's the whole bottom line for everything.
No, it's true. And I love what you said. And you brought up a very, very poignant word, truth. And I tell people one of the first things that you need to do with yourself is honesty. I've done so many TikToks and so many videos on that. Like if you're just like you said, the people don't want to feel. And that's so true because people are running to their short-term gratifications and they're not looking at the long-term results. And so people will sit there and come to me with excuses and they'll say, well, Chris, I can't afford this or I don't have time for that. And I'll be like, okay, how's that going to work out for you in 10, 15 years or 5 years? Right? You can't afford to eat healthy and you can't afford a gym membership, but are you going to be able to afford 20 different medications? Are you going to be able to afford not to have your health? Are you going to be able to afford to die early? Are you going to be able to afford those things? And looking at it with that, like you said, that different perspective. And I'm out there trying to get people just to shift their perspective just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. Like I said at the beginning of the show, where that in 3 months, 6 months to a year, you can unravel what some have, accumulated over a lifetime. But so many people don't want that honesty. They don't want to face that until something super bad happens.
They don't mind the honesty. What they mind is the feelings they get as a result of the honesty.
What are some of the feelings that traditionally people get that maybe you could walk them through reprogramming their mind or changing that perspective?
Guilt. Okay,
Let's talk about that one. Go deep on that one because that's a huge one. Guilt and shame.
I figured you'd like that one, right?
Yeah.
There were several times that I know I lost patience with my little sister. I mean, I'm human, and she would cry, and I would feel so guilty. I didn't want to feel that. I mean, didn't know that then. I know that now. Okay, who wants to feel guilty, right?
Right.
So instead of feeling the guilt, I would be angry. It's much easier to feel angry than it is guilt.
Why is that? Because I understand my understanding of that, but why is that? Why do people want to feel that anger? What does that do for them?
Because it's an energy that you can get out, that you can express, that you can get out. You can punch a bag, you can kick a wall, what the hell do you do with grief?
It's about being in control, right? I can control that. I can express that. The feeling of guilt and animosity, I don't know how to process that. So instead, I will transmute that into something different, which I can control. My mother always had to be right. And if she wasn't right, she would get angry and she would control the situation. Then you would just be like, okay, I don't want to deal with this. I'll just shut up and listen.
Yep. And at the very same time, what you were doing is you were holding those emotions and feelings in.
Oh, yeah.
So many times what happens is, it's like putting air in a balloon. You put it in, and pretty soon it explodes. And that's where you get these outbursts. That's where you get your outbursts, your things that happen that you didn't know were going to happen. That's where I had a client that actually ended up punching their client because they had held it in and held it in and held it in and held it in.
Punch their client?
Punch their client.
Whoa.
I mean, that's an extreme case, okay? But it can happen. Being snarky to a client is the same thing, only not physical. So it's about also being aware of how you're responding to things.
Right. And that's where I think about, that's another one of my philosophies is responding versus reacting.
Oh, we ought to talk sometime, Chris, because I teach that all the time. Yeah. 248 is a reaction.
Exactly. So shifting gears a little bit, because I am the No Excuses coach, I'm always fascinated, and you being a coach, what are some of the top excuses you hear from your clients, and what are some ways that people can mitigate that? Whether it's, I don't know time, I don't have enough money, I don't know how to do it. What are some common excuses that you hear, and what suggestions do you have for them?
I'm always in overwhelm.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
I run a salon with 10 other stylists working for me. And I'm still doing all the ordering, doing all the checking, doing all the, okay. And we'll go back and we'll find out why so that they understand it. What you begin to do is force yourself to delegate. Okay. And there can be a whole bunch of reasoning behind that. The thing is, Chris, is when we understand why we're wired the way we're wired, it's easier to change it. Okay. People are meaning-making machines. We have to have, even as a little kid, that's why the little kids get so down on themselves. The only one they can point is there has to be a reason why my mother's always yelling at me. I must be a bad kid or I must be stupid.
Right.
So it's the overwhelm thing. And one of the things you do, I mean, there's a number of things you can do. You can start learning how to schedule, reasonably schedule. You can start learning how to delegate to people that can handle it. And if they can't handle it, you find someone that can. Well, I don't have the money to hire a virtual assistant. Oh, okay. How much do you really think you could afford a week? Well, I know I couldn't do any more than $100 a week. And I go, okay, here's the name of someone. Great virtual assistant. Hire her for 2 hours a week and start off with 2 hours. Everybody thinks they have to go in full tilt 40 hours a week. You don't. So it's things like that. Another one I'll hear is, I just don't have time to grow my business. Really? What are you? Well, you know, I'm on the Chamber of Commerce and I belong to this group and I'm in leadership. And what that's all about down deep, all right, is wanting to be recognized and liked.
True.
Okay. But that's not going to grow your business. So you have a choice to be. And they also want to be the go-to person in their business. You know, the marketing person, the coach. I said, well, you have a decision to make, don't you? You can either be liked or be a badass business owner. What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's stuff like that. So you choose.
Yeah, like you said, it's about accepting that responsibility. I just had a coaching client last week, a brand new coaching client. And I said, what do you think is the biggest excuse you want to overcome right now? And she goes, well, I find myself that I don't have enough time. And I said, okay. I said, do you understand that we all have 24 hours in a day? J-Lo has 24 hours in a day. The president of the United States has 24 hours a day. We all have 24 hours in a day. So why is it that you don't think you have time? And like you said, I got this and I've got this and I've got that. And in this particular situation, this person wanted to start their own business. And I said, okay, what would it be like if you had a couple of extra hours a week? Like if I gave you 2 to 3 hours extra a week, what would you be able to accomplish? And she says, well, I'd be able to do this and I'd be able to do this and I'd be able to do this. And I said, write it down. And so she starts writing it down. And I said, okay. I said, tell me about your day. And she proceeds to tell me, she goes, well, I get up and I have my coffee and I flip through social media and then I do this and then I do this and then I make the lunches and then I have to do the laundry and then I have to clean up and then I have to do this and then I have to do this. And I'm like, do you realize how many times you said the word have to in that string of things? I said, what if you change that to I get to? And so she started looking at things and I said, furthermore, I said, how old are your kids? And she said, they're 4, I think it was 4, 9, and 13. And I said, what is the reasonability of having your kids help you do the laundry, having your kids help you clean up around the house, having your husband do some things around the house? Oh my God, Chris, I have tried that and it's never worked. And you just don't understand. And she goes into this whole thing. And I sat there and I listened and I listened and I listened. And I said, you should probably go back. And it was I always record my coaching sessions for my clients. And I said, you should probably go back and watch that because you will probably find that you have some room in there. And she goes, well, what do you think? I mean, how would you approach it? And I said, here's how I would approach it. And I said, I have to go dark for a second because I believe in going dark. And I said, if you got hit by the proverbial fucking bus tomorrow, I said, are you telling me that your husband wouldn't have clean underwear? Are you telling me your kids would go to school hungry? Are you telling me that the house would look like shit and nobody would ever be able to come over? And she sat there and she looked at me, it was on a Zoom, and she went, fuck. And I said, yeah, exactly. I said, so you're not giving yourself the chance. You're not giving your family the chance. I said, what would it be like if you went to your family and said, hey guys, mom is frustrated. Mom is tired. Mom has so many other dreams rather than doing your laundry and making your lunches and cleaning up after everybody. Could I get some help? Could I possibly ask each of you to donate 20 minutes a day to help me fold the laundry? Perhaps if you fold the laundry and you put it away, I will give you $1. So that together as a family, we can help mom be a little bit happier. So maybe mom's not so crabby and maybe mom's doing some things that she wants to do. And I asked her, I said, is there a plausibility? Is there reasonability in that, what I just said? And she looked at me and she got the biggest smile on her face. She goes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so she touched base with me and I said, I want you to send me a message and let me know how that conversation went. And I said, I want you to have that within the next 48 hours. I said, you cannot back down. And so she texted me later on because all my clients have text messages with me. And she said, Chris, I had the conversation. And she goes, I got no feedback, or I got no blowback. And that was the word she used. I got no blowback. So that's what we have to do. We have to have those tough conversations and we have to get over our excuses. So my next question to you is,
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second.
Okay.
Because there's another question there that as a coach is pure gold. Okay? Because I dig your approach and I've done it. Another way to go, especially when they get over the shock of this one, is say, answer me this question, would you? Let's say, just use your imagination for a moment. Let's say that you have a kick-ass team, your family helps you, you have plenty of time, all your ducks are in a row. Then what? Well, I'd be able to grow my business. And I said, so why are you keeping yourself from growing your business?
Self-sabotaging.
Well, but why do people self-sabotage?
They don't feel they deserve it.
But if you can get that's just another way to go, or an additional way to go. And I like the 1-2 punch of that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I ask people all the time, like, why don't you feel you deserve to have that to support? Why don't you feel like you deserve to have that extra income? Why don't you feel like you deserve to have those clients? Why is it that you're giving yourself and shitting all over yourself before you have an opportunity? Because what advice would you give your best friend? What would advice, like you said before, what advice would you give your son? And that's what I think about for myself is like, what would I tell my son in this situation? Or what would I tell my coaching client in that situation? Because we're always so quick to give people advice, but we're never so quick to sit there and say, okay, let me listen to my own words and my own actions. So what is your biggest excuse in your life and how do you mitigate that?
Oh, wow. What's my biggest excuse?
Because we all have them.
No, I do. I'm trying to pick one. No, I do have one major one. And that is, I don't have time to go out to all these networking meetings. I hate them. That's what I tell myself. Of course, once I'm having a ball, right? And what I have to remember around that is my thing was always, I would just like to have my little hut in the desert and just send me about 5 clients a day and then just leave me alone.
Mm-hmm. I feel that.
Very unrealistic, right? And so my daughter even said to me at one point, she says, what do you think, God's going to come just send you 5 clients a day? And I said, well, I know what my deal was. I didn't want to be visible, Chris. Because when I was visible, what happened to us as kids? We either caught hell or got slapped or whatever. And that's something that I carried with me. So one of the things that I do now is to say, Pat, how old are you? And I go, well, I'm 77, right? And I say, now, do you think you might have a few more skills and talents and abilities than you did when you were 5 to defend yourself? Yeah, I guess I do. But it's taken me a while to get there, to learn how to reason with myself like that. But that's one of the ways I do the overwhelm thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I when you said the networking thing, I totally keyed it on that. I am a people person. I like people say, you're such an extrovert, Chris. You're so outgoing. I'm like, yeah, but I can go camping and not talk to a single soul for 10 days and be totally good with that. And so to that point, I did a bunch of networking in my 30s and 40s when I first started my coaching business. And I was like, oh, fuck, I don't want to go to this networking event. I don't want to go see all these people. I don't want to do this. And then one day as I was walking in the door, I could still remember this. It was when I first moved out here to Riverside. I was walking up to this place. I'm like, God, I do not want to go in here. And I stopped. And before I swung the door open, it opened outwards. I sat there and I thought, we said this before, how can I make a game of this? And I said, rather than walking in there and going, I don't want to go in there and talk to people, I thought, how can I walk in there and talk to at least 5 people within the first 20 minutes? And that way I could sit there and say, okay, I've done what I need to do. And may I, as I'm talking to these people, may I just have some stimulating conversation? May I just make an impact in their lives so much so that when they go home from that networking event, they go, man, this guy in a hat and a bandana and jeans walked in and walked right up to me and said, hi, my name's Christopher. I'm the No Excuses coach. And so when I did that, my whole perspective shifted. I went from like, I don't want to do this to like, I'm kind of keen to see how this is going to go. And every single time I did that, I walked out of there with clients, with referrals, with opportunities. And I know that those people went home and said, out of all the people I met in the suit and ties and all the stuffy motherfuckers, this guy walked up to me and was real.
And how long did it take you to get to that point though?
Oh, it took a while. It took a while. I was pretty good, but until I made that perspective shift, then I became exponentially successful because I dropped that guard of who I needed to be and was I worried about what people thought. I just walked in there and said, "Fuck, I'm just going to rock this place."
Yeah, that's what people say. Well, I want to be like you because you just go in and okay, you can do that, but know that I've spent this many years getting from where you are to here.
I'm a 20-year overnight success. Like, oh, Chris, you're so confident. You're so this and you're so that and you're so this. I'm like, as a kid, I didn't fucking say a word to anybody because every time I opened my mouth, I got slapped or I got punched. I was bullied at school. I was bullied on the way home. I was beaten by my mom. I had zero self-confidence. And so I'm like, I'm a fucking 55-year overnight success because we continue to apply and be curious and have that sense of adventure because I want to share something with people who may not know this. We become the people we become, not when we're teenagers, everybody else. By the time we're 5 years old, child psychology says that we have those beliefs set in our place that says, okay, I'm stupid. I shouldn't be seen. I shouldn't be heard. I'm not pretty. I'm not attractive. I'm not talented. I'm not, athletic. I'm not all these different things. And until we get somebody in our life like you and I, who have been through that path authentically, then we don't ever shift those perspectives. We're coming up on 45 minutes. I have one final major question for you. Sure. You've mentioned a few times here. I'm fascinated with questions. Like I have a list of questions I love to ask myself. I love to ask my clients. What I love to ask my guests. What are some of your favorite questions that can really get to the heart of things, whether you ask it of yourself or you ask it of your clients? I love questions because I know without a doubt they can shift things pretty quickly. As long as we're honest.
Sometimes that's the hardest thing is to come up with what I call the right question. Sometimes we ask ourselves the wrong question. Like, why do I have to work on Sundays and Saturdays? These other people don't. And to me, that's the wrong question. The question is, what am I trying to prove? So that's a question I use a lot when it comes in, I'm overworking or I'm trying to really find, all right, what are you trying to prove here? And I don't see that as a derogatory. It's just I'm trying to prove something. Mm-hmm. I also play the awfulizer game, which is, all right, what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, I would lose a client. And if you lost a client, what would happen? Well, then I wouldn't have money, and just carry it down to the bottom line because it brings it back to the reality. One of my favorite questions is, what can I do for you? And
I love that.
Just a mother. It's not just a motto it's what can I do for you? It might be a smile. It might be.
I love that, being in service. I mean, when we're in service, we get so much in return. One of my favorite questions I was just giving to a prospective client today is I said, I'm going to leave you with this. If you get nothing else from this conversation, I want you to ask yourself this question. Is this, whatever you're doing, getting you closer to or further from your stated goal? So if you want to lose weight, is this bite of food going to get me closer or further from? Is this avoiding a confrontation? Is this getting me closer to or further from the person I'm becoming? That question I have found for myself and for a multitude of clients has been instrumental in changing people's perspective. So I love what you're talking about is when we're in service, what can I do for you? Or putting back on ourselves, what can I do for myself? What's something that I can do for myself today that by which doing so, when I go to sleep tonight, I'll have just a little bit more self-esteem. I'll have just a little bit more self-confidence. I'll have a little bit more sense of pride in who I'm becoming.
The other thing is Chris, have a set of guidelines for yourself.
Okay? Values.
How much joy is in this project for me? How much? My philosophy is if it ain't fun, I ain't doing it. And I have fun coaching. I have fun, projects and that kind of thing. Another one is how much am I enjoying the interaction with my client? It's not just about, and I actually have a rating sheet, and money's the very bottom one. I need 15 out of 20 points in order to take a client on. But have a sheet like that, write it out for yourself, and then measure each time you make a decision.
I love that. I love that. I'm a scale of 1 to 10 guy that you can't pick 7 because a lot of people run to 7. So I'm like on a scale of 1 to 10, you tell me how bad you want it. I want it 11. I'm like, okay, what actions are you willing to forego that will get you to that spot? What
Right.
excuses are you willing to forego on a scale of 1 to, well, okay. And I'm like, then you're really not ready to shift. Let me say that right. You're really not ready to shift. Pat, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I could talk to you for another 7 hours. We've been going for 49 minutes. Where can people get a hold of you? Where can they learn more about you and hire you as a coach, and et cetera, et cetera?
Okay, on LinkedIn. So it's www.linkedin.com/IN/Pat HONIOTES. So you get me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. So again, it's facebook.com/Pat HONIOTES. And, just put me in Google. I'll come up somehow. Just ignore the arrest record, okay?
I know. I was kidding you in my research of the show and saying I contacted your high school. I said that to a few people, and I've had people like, you better not bring that up. And I'm like, I don't even know what high school you went to. I'm just fucking with you. Like, it's crazy. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I encourage anybody who's come in the middle of this, go back and watch the beginning of it, listen to the beginning of it. Again, take the 3 strategies and put them into use, put the questions to use. Pat, I'm going to place you backstage. Don't go anywhere because I still want to have a chat with you. I'm just going to finish out the show. You're the best. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Crystal, thank you for being here. Jacqueline, thank you for being here. Robert Brooker's in the house. What's up, Robert? It's been a minute. You've been here. He says, evening, Christopher, Pat, Crystal, and Jacqueline. And thank you to all my East Coast people who I know watch this tomorrow morning as you're getting ready, because I realize it is nearly 11 o'clock on the East Coast. And I know a lot of you guys watch it in the morning. So thank you. But again, think about this conversation. Think about the excuses that you have in your life. How is this working out for you? How is this working out for you? I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I love this special one with Chris. I just don't know how. I'm like, last I knew, all of us have a fucking computer in our pocket. Oops, don't drop my glasses. Most of us have a computer, and if not all of us have a computer in our pocket. There's YouTube, there's Google, and there's ChatGPT. There is literally no fucking excuse how you do not know how to do something. I was just talking with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they said, oh, my finances are in ruin, and this, that, and the other thing. And I said, tell me the last 3 things you did that you learned how to change how it is that you're doing your finances. Like, what have you Googled? What research have you done? What things have you implemented in your life? Like, just tell me the 3 things you've done in the last 6 months that you have attempted to change what it is that's not working for you. And I've said that many times to people. Do you know that most people answer me with, Chris, I haven't done anything. I'm like, yeah, but you've bitched, you pissed, you moaned, you complained, you vetted, you self-sabotaged, you ran to your short-term gratifications. You did all those things. You just kept going, pow, 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 pow. Let me shoot myself in the foot. Sometimes I say a different part of the anatomy. Let's stop doing that. Because at the end of the day, and you think about this, again, going dark, if you died tomorrow, which all of us have the opportunity to die in 10 minutes or 10 years or whatever it might be. But if you died tomorrow, who would show up at your funeral and what would they say? Would your kids, would your husband, would your friends show up and say, oh my God, Julie was always going for the uncomfortable things. Julie was always striving to be a better person. Julie was always trying to better herself. Julie, or you know what? Quite honestly, Julie was a gossiper. Julie was a complainer. Julie was, a person that didn't take action. Julie was a person that went, it's all your fault, right? Think about that. Every single day and every single moment, you have the opportunity to create your legacy so that when your time comes, and I think about this a lot. I was just thinking about it Sunday in great detail that I got very emotional thinking about my own life. When you think about that, you're building your legacy with every decision that you make, with every person that you surround yourself with every opportunity that you take or that you pass up, you're creating a legacy. And so for me, what I do, and I had all my coaching clients do it, is I have them write their eulogy. Oh my God, Chris, I can't even think about that. Okay, then don't. Then keep doing what you're doing and tell me how that's working out for you. Well, it's not. Okay, well then great. Let's write a future script of who it is you want to be remembered for. And then every single day, rather than complaining, rather than blaming, how about we take some responsibility for our life and say, you know what? Today, I am going to fight for what's right and what's fair. I'm going to risk for which that mattered. And I'm going to leave the earth a better place for who I am and what I do. And you know why I know that so well? Because that's my eulogy in a nutshell. And when I wrote my eulogy and I read it back to myself out loud, I started crying. This was back in my 30s. I think it was 2008, whatever that is. I went, wow. Christopher fought for what's right and what's fair. He risked for which that mattered. And he left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. So every day when I wake up, God's my truth. I say to myself, what is it that I'm going to do today? So that by which doing so at night, when I go to sleep, I can look back on what I'm proud of today. I'm proud of this episode today. I'm proud of the conversation I had earlier with somebody who needed help. I'm proud of the fact that I donated to the Hurricane Relief Fund. I'm glad I donated to a friend of mine whose husband's been in the hospital. I'm glad I bought sleeping bags for the people in North Carolina. I did those 3 things. I did this. I've done so many things today that when I go to sleep tonight, I'll have more than enough things to say, you know what? Fuck, I'm pretty proud of that. And so when you do that for yourself and you stop blaming, you stop criticizing, you stop all those different things that are not working for you, guess what you're going to start to do? You're going to create that self-esteem. You're going to create that awareness. You're going to create action and movement in your life. So that's going to build on itself. And you're going to say, wow, I did that. What else can I do? And you kind of make a game of it. And you kind of enjoy that. And you get the right people in your life, because if you're surrounded by a bunch of bozos who are blaming the president and blaming this and fucking this, I'm seeing people that are blaming so many people right now for the fucking hurricane. I saw somebody said that actually they think it's the politicians that created the fucking hurricane so people can't vote. Are you fucking kidding me? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're a lot more intelligent than that. So here's my offer to you. If you watch this show into this depth, and you have never had a coaching session with me, feel free to reach out to me. We'll have a great session. And if it works out and you want to be my client, then so be it. But the thing I encourage you to do also is go to rawandunscripted.com. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, I would love for you to go there. I'd love for you to go to the YouTube page. It's youtube.com/Christopher Rausch, RAUSCH. If that's too complicated, just hashtag no excuses coach on Google. You'll find me all over the place. And I'd love to have you on board the Raw Unscripted group. And with that, please make sure that you're kind to one another. You're kind to yourself, and let's make this world a better place. I know that we can all do that. Let's put away the dividedness and the divisiveness and all the other rhetoric, and let's be there for each other, because people are hurting right now, whether it's the hurricanes, God forbid, the poor people in Florida, everybody's hurting. So let's be that togetherness. Let's be that love for ourselves and for other people. And whatever I could do to bring that in your life, by all means, reach out to me. I'm here for you guys. We're here in this together, this thing called humanity. So let's start acting like it. All right. And next week, what do we have? Who do we have on the show next week? I'm trying to remember. I just reached out to him for we have Steve Gamlin. Oh my God, you guys are going to fucking love Steve. He is a straight shooter. He's got a giveaway that he's going to be doing as well. So again, we'll be back here next week, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I love you guys. Go out there and enjoy your moments, please. All right. We'll see you here next time.